There are some core problems with Crimson Desert. I don't went into this game without too many expectations, but boss fights were definitely on top of my priority list. And instead of what was seemingly marketed, I got this frustrating, poorly designed mess that feels more like an absolute cluster most of the time. The fights should be the highlight of the game, considering that there's so many micromanagement things going on, so many other things you can do in the game that has absolutely nothing to do with the quote unquote story. It's an action adventure game with moments that should test your skill and have a story to tell for real, but often than not, it just ends up being a frustrating chore. And boss fights are definitely like that. So I'm going to break it down a little bit further today because despite the game being good, there are some fundamental issues with it, and the boss design and lock-on systems, controls in general, are definitely in the middle of it. So let's start with the developer's design philosophy regarding bosses, which I can only describe as kind of a kitchen sink approach. Instead of giving us bosses that are meaningful and learnable and they have patterns to recognize, basically we get bosses that can be defeated by throwing items at them. As long as you have enough healing slash food and enough revives, you can beat anything. You can make as many mistakes as you like, or just basically wail over them like I did with the banquet boss. Some of the bosses have like 3 stages, and there's absolutely no difference between those stages. You just have to beat the same guy 3 times. This makes the combat feel a lot less of a skillful duel and more like a memory test, and very tedious at that one. It tries so hard to copy the core of Souls like games, but completely misses every step along the way and makes these fights less of special and than it is in sad games. A great boss fight should be like a conversation, when you have to learn how to beat it. Like, for instance, Black Myth Wukong. If you don't learn the patterns of the boss, you'll never beat them. And boy, did I chew my way through that one. It's just desperately trying to hide that fact behind all the visual noise. I mean, some of the bosses are really flashy. They have some pretty nice appearance, but it's not all about looks. Let's take the Reed Double for once. A perfect example of a very weird design. The fight itself isn't hard because the boss is clever. It's hard because the boss area is filled with duplicates, and it takes for you for a while to realize that you have to break down these freaking voodoo dolls, and all of a sudden, yeah, we're back to the same thing. Beat the guy 3 times and hope for the best. As long as you have enough healing, you're a winner. It's like a participation trophy every single time. Um, like I said, your mileage may vary, but I don't find that boss fights like that interesting in the least. The banquet boss, same thing. 3 rounds of the same stuff. As long as you have an armor leveled up enough and you can keep on healing, it's it's not difficult. It's just almost a cutscene. But yeah, there are things that happen to be more of a problem than just the boss fights. Let's go and dive into the controls and the clumsy mechanics right on top of that. So you would think that the game would require to have intuitive controls, responsive ones at that, right? Well, you would definitely be wrong on that one. Crimson Desert's combat is weighed down by controls widely claimed as clunky and non responsive and poorly mapped, and I can definitely back that last one up because for a while now, I've been trying to figure out how on earth the game switches between my primary and secondary weapon without me specifically using any button combination, and I did try to press every freaking button on the controller, and I still don't know how the hell does it happen in the middle of the fight. There's just no way figuring it out. And if you happen to use a PC with a controller, good luck, because you will never see the respective key bindings. That's just total blindness. And when it comes to handling the game with a controller, who on earth thought that having multi-level menus that require you to basically use every button ever invented on a controller to get through is a great idea in 2026? I definitely don't agree with that one, and it took me days to actually get used to it. Now it's fine, but I'm still pressing the wrong button every now and then. It's just frustrating. And when it comes to frustration, we just arrive to the lock on system. Manually locking onto enemies is fine, even in this time and day, as long as you're fighting not too many enemies at the same time. But let's just circle back to the Crimson Nightmare for a second and talk about the fact that the moment you give up the fight and restart, it also respawns all the enemies in the area. So all of a sudden you end up fighting the boss and 24 other enemies in a relatively small space. And there's no way of switching between targets with a single press of a button. The game operates with huge attacks, major area of effect attacks, trying to counterbalance the fact that there's virtually no freaking way of switching targets. You have to manually engage and disengage, and considering that everything takes measurable time to activate in the game, that's not all right. Soft locks just don't work because you can't follow up. Numerous times I ended up striking the ground next to the guy because the character moved just half an inch. So I wouldn't call that a working system, to be honest. And this is consistent and error prone. And there's so much micromanagement going on that you end up fighting that instead of the enemy. And more often than not, it feels like that abilities fail at the worst possible moment. And it's just a recipe for disaster. It just reinforces the feeling that you're not being outplayed by the boss, but cheated by the game itself. And, it's kind of feeling like walking into a hurricane with a broken umbrella. It's not exactly enjoyable. But, you might feel different about that. This is my initial experience after a few dozen hours. And, it's not a catastrophic failure. You can work around it. But when the game throws multiple enemies at you during its hardest fights, it's going to backfire real fast and become the main reason you keep on dying. The camera just whips around and you get disoriented, and that's the end of it. It's just, all that needs to be done is have a simple tab targeting function. And if you hard lock onto an enemy, please, just put something in that that stops the game from disengaging when you turn the camera. It's a hard lock. When you do that, you should be pivoting around the target like planets around the sun. It shouldn't disengage. There was one particular moment, this one, where it became so infuriating that I was supposed to navigate in every axis in the 3D space and somehow keep the target in my focus because the moment I turned away, it got disengaged and there was no way of directing my one attack at the freaking target. It's a death sentence immediately when the off screen attacks just get the best of you. There's no freaking way. You have multiple issues to deal with, even when it's just one target. And like I said, the game feels like having an identity crisis. It's supposed to be a grand action RPG, but the boss fights end up feeling like a cheap imitation of Souls like games without any of the tight controls and the fair and logical design that makes the whole genre. I wouldn't say beloved, but yeah, let's say beloved. And the result is this string of fights that just feel either underwhelming or punishing for no reason and profoundly wasting your time. They become memory tests instead of skill tests. And forcing that micromanagement part where you have to have dozens of items in your inventory to survive it. In the initial 40 hours, you can end up with bosses that can pretty much be beaten without zero skill. Just have enough healing and you're good to go. They did try to patch up a couple of things. They nerfed a number of bosses, so we can't really say that Pearl Abyss doesn't pay attention. They're fixing the game constantly. But lowering a boss's health, that uh, that doesn't fix the lock-on problem. It just hides the reason why you're struggling with it. The world itself is gorgeous. You have plenty of other things to do, so I wouldn't say it's a bad game. It's a good game. But the boss fights are just not cutting it. And, if you put so many bosses that are part of the story in the game, you should take a little bit better care about how that experience goes. Because you can't just have a nice, relaxing, fun game to play and then sprinkle an absolute ton of frustration on top of it and think that the players will be like, yeah, I like that. As I said more than once, your mileage may vary, but it's really hard to decide what this game actually is. Is it a Souls like? Is it an action RPG? Is it like a base building game or what? Which is it? It would be nice if the game wouldn't feel like a chore when it comes to major boss fights. It would be absolutely brilliant. But hey, like I said, your mileage may vary. The bottom line is, it's just my take, and despite my grievances with these things, I enjoy playing it. So there you go. the identity crisis, because some parts of the game are grand and beautiful, and I love it to bits. But there's the other side, where there are fundamental issues that could have been ironed out if the game was cooking for a month or two more. I wouldn't have bothered myself with having a late release. And there's still time, and they're still fixing things. So let's keep our fingers crossed that the frustration regarding these boss fights will eventually disappear. Either way, this is just my take. I'm sure many of you have your own stories of frustration, and you also have a list of things you love about the game. So let me down in. Let me down. Freud was right. So let me know in the comments down below what you feel about the game, and if it was a specific thing or just in general that you're unhappy or happy, whichever applies. Anyways, I'm signing off. I'll see you all in the next one.